Welcome to Guns, Gear, and Guns with Gary Gunderson. I am Gary Gunderson. So I went to the 2023 Ohio Valley Military Show of Shows again this year, marking the second time ever and second year in a row. So I thought I would talk about how the show was, how it compared to last year, and general observations I have about the show going forward. Once again, the show is quite large. It took me around 3 hours to walk through all of the aisles, and that includes stopping at some for a long time to look and examine items closely, while other tables I just blew by without looking very much since they don't have anything to do with what I collect or am interested in. There are a lot of collectibles you don't find at typical gun shows, or at least in this quantity, and a lot of items are worthy of advanced collectors or rich ones. Being there a second time, I feel like I have a better feel for the show, and I've come to the conclusion that it's kind of like going to an expert for purchase. There's a lot of knowledge built in, and you should generally be able to trust the vendors because the show takes very seriously that they need to indicate if something is real or reproduction. But as part of that, you are paying a premium on a lot of the larger items to essentially pay for this expertise and assurance on what you are getting. Kind of like going to a renowned online vendor instead of trying to find a deal on Gunbroker. That's not to say these vendors can't make mistakes, miss things, or even mislead. It's still up to you to know your stuff and know what things are without relying on the vendor. But I do think you will get the best value on the smaller items overall because things like slings, bayonets, muzzle covers, etc. have such a higher proportion of shipping cost versus actual cost of the item when purchasing online. Once again, I did not purchase a firearm at this show and only purchased these smaller items just like last year. A large proportion of the firearms were collector grade and the prices reflected that. There was a VG1 for $14,000, full auto PPSH 41 for $28,000, MP40s for up to $32,000, but then there were also plenty of more common items you would expect to find: K98s, Arasakas, Lugers, Garands, M1 carbines. There was a Russian flamethrower with a bipod for laying down fire. There were also some Bubud items as well, which really stuck out, but there was definitely a variety of firearms at all levels of price and collecting, and they did go from black powder to modern era. And there were only a handful of modern firearms around. Most of the firearms there would qualify for a Curio and Relic FFL03 license transfer, which is good since people come from all over to attend the show. There were, of course, bayonets, patches galore, uniform items, just all sorts of things you may not even think about as a collector or that was used by soldiers in these conflicts, along with rabbits for some reason, and some very specific pricing. If I had to say there was an overall focus of the items there, it's Second World War. A lot of German, a lot of Japanese, a lot of American items, a lot original, but some reproduction as well. There were definitely a lot of repeat vendors I saw from last year, some with maybe the same items, which, like I said, they are at a premium price, so I'm sure there's some leftovers going around until they find the right buyer or offer a deal. Honestly, I did not buy as much from Show of Shows this year. I actually spent more at the gun show next door, taking place in the same event center. But it's still a good experience. I didn't get any footage of the gun show this year, but it definitely wasn't as good as last year, and the tickets are more expensive than the Show of Shows. There was a higher percentage of modern firearms this year. Last year there was hardly any, but this year there was a ton, and that's kind of worthless to me as someone from multiple states away, so I would have to have it shipped back and transferred, etc. The Show of Shows is definitely a good show, but it's not necessarily one I would focus on attending if you're looking to buy firearms, unless you are after something collector grade and wants to know a little more about it, a little above market price, wanting that reassurance. And on some items, especially if you don't want to put in the extra work researching it yourself, that might be the right option. So that's not to dissuade anyone from going for firearms, but just kind of know what to expect. Personally, I would still try to find a deal somewhere, and that's not to say there weren't any deals. I was with someone who picked up a rifle myself, so don't be discouraged about going. That's all for today. Did any of you attend the show shows this year? What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments below. Please support this channel through Patreon, like the video, share it, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.